This is Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Whether you're an obsessive music lover or just a casual fan, I bet you have a specific music venue that you picture when you think back on your best live music memories. Maybe it was a bar in your town that always hosted up-and-coming local musicians. Or maybe a park where bands played on summer nights under the stars. For thousands of people in Burlington and the surrounding region, that place was Nectar's. The bar, restaurant, and music venue served up gravy fries, beers, and new music for nearly 50 years. Earlier this year, its owners announced it would close temporarily. Then, this summer, they said the closure would be for good. This hour, we're going to share memories of what this iconic venue meant to musicians, music lovers, drunk college students, and anyone who likes a night out. We're also going to look at the larger significance of this one specific closure for the region's music scene. Joining me in the Vermont Edition studio today is Chris Farnsworth, the music editor of 7 Days. He's been covering the news of Nectar's closure and stories of other music venues and bands in the area. And his cover story on Vermont's love of the Grateful Dead and Grateful Dead cover bands came out last week. Chris, welcome.
Hi, Michaela. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, very glad to have you. And listeners, we are so glad to have you this Thursday as well. We received an outpouring of emails and posts on Reddit about Nectars and all of your memories. I'm going to read some of those throughout today's show. We'd really love if you could join us by phone too. Give us a call and tell us about your Nectars memories. Or if you've never been there, maybe there's another small venue in the region that is coming up for you right now that you want to tell us about. Our number is 800-639-2211. You can also email us throughout this hour at vermontedition@vermontpublic.org. All right, so Chris, set the scene for us. For those who have not been to Nectar's and are like, why is Vermont Edition doing a show about this one specific small venue in Burlington, Vermont? What did it look like? What happened there?
Well, Nectar's has held this spot in the city's music scene for, just about half a century, just short of 50 years. This was about to be the 50th year celebration of Nectar's. It opened in 75 and has largely been where the music scene sort of comes out of in Burlington. It's usually that's like where you'll see a lot of the young, like between Phish, Grace Potter, whatever it is that's coming out, that's usually where you'll see them first. Or where you would have seen them first for free somewhere, like before anyone knew anything. Where it's not the I think maybe people who come with the mythology in their head are expecting a little bit of a grander scene, but it was a wonderful little club, but it was tiny. The stage used to be on the side of the wall. You used to have to kind of do sound yourself right next to that stage. It's come a long way over the years, but what it always has been is formative. It's where so many people saw their first band in Burlington. It's where so many people saw their favorite band in Burlington. And it's gone through so many iterations and changes of scene, genre, all these things to just become multiple generations kind of first most, it's like the first kiss. Yeah. Nectar's was everybody's first kiss. So when something like this goes away, everybody's really going to come away with this feeling of like these memories are going to surge up and these feelings of maybe lost youth and innocence even.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought up a first kiss because when we posted on Burlington's Reddit about Nectar's, one person wrote that their first kiss was at Nectar's. One other person wrote, I love this, chilling with Paige, watching baseball, drinking beers. I don't know who Paige is, but that sounds really nice.
Paige McConnell, keyboardist from Phish and an avid baseball fan, probably.
I thought it was just a friend.
It could be. I don't want to speak for the guy if there's another Paige out there, but probably Paige McConnell.
Probably Paige. Okay. Another person wrote, one time my husband lost his wallet there and the bouncer hand delivered it home to us the next day, which really speaks to just that community feel that was there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that was the thing is that people, they didn't just form memories with the club, which we all do. We've all, you're going to form those things. They formed memories with the club that was also the community. The people they saw there constantly, it's a small city. So you're seeing the same people there usually when you're going at these shows at Nectar's. You're getting to know the bartenders, you're getting to know everybody. And it becomes part of your life in a way that maybe just a business in and of itself might not, because the music, the memories, and these little human moments that would happen there. I'm not saying they don't happen in other venues, but when you have 50 years of it, there's just so many of those memories.
Right. And if you have some of those memories from Nectars, we'd love if you shared them today with us. 800-639-2211 is our number. You can also write into Vermont Edition at vermontpublic.org. Chris, this was a place to go see music. It was also a place where a lot of people went to have a good time. We got a number of drinking related messages on Reddit. One person pointed out that they used to have 10-cent beers from 9 to 10 p.m. on Thursdays, and they'd buy 10 beers at a time. Somebody else wrote, it must have been 2008 because a young Obama campaign staffer was in town. He was wasted at a Bob Wagner show at Nectar's, hit on my friend, and before he dipped out, he said, quote, when you talk about me later, please refer to me as the wolf. So there, do with that what you will.
I mean, it's as weird as that sounds like a Nectar's memory,
Yeah.
honestly. It's wild, though. Like, just ever since, really since the first story at the beginning of the summer dropped about them taking a pause, and then it turned into the full closure, my inbox has just been memory central. Just like people, even before the closure, like I think maybe people could smell the blood in the water, but they were all emailing me to, there'd be a paragraph or two about why is this happening, what do we do, but really then it was 3 to 4 paragraphs of, well, okay, this time in 1987 I saw this band that changed my life, or I had a fight with my girlfriend in 94 and I'll never forget getting thrown, so it's these incredible memories, some of which are a little bit more direct like that, have started coming in, and it's been interesting because it's like, these people that not all of whom I know, obviously, or they're just emailing me for the first time, and they're sending me some pretty vivid details about their life. I was like, oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
All
I
right.
appreciate that.
You mentioned the blood in the water. You've been covering local music for years here, Chris. Were you surprised by the announcement that Nectar's was closing first for the summer and then for good, or did you kind of get a sense that this is where that venue was headed?
I did have a sense. I did. And, I had to really be careful because I think people were mistaking it for cynicism sometimes when I'd start talking about it, and people around, certainly, in the bullpen, when we talk about it, they were like, oh, you're just looking at the general scene. But I had to point out that, this is a national and international problem going on right now. Australia lost, I think, 30% of their venues since COVID. England I think in the UK, they've had something like 150 independent venues shut down in the last year and a half. So this is kind of happening everywhere. So in that sense, I definitely was prepared when I first started hearing stuff. The other thing too is, there's all these indicators about the health of the live music scene in general. They're really out there. There's a lot of things plaguing this in general. There's hardly any easy answers. But you could also just really break it down and look at Burlington and see what was going on. The foot traffic just wasn't happening there anymore, which has always been a huge part of Nectar's. That's the big marquee sign twisting in neon light. It's the only thing in town that is allowed to do that. It got around the billboard laws, like there's a reason that's the only marquee we've ever had.
How did it get around the billboard laws? Do you know?
My guess, the way live music works, is somebody greased some palms, but who knows? It was early enough, maybe in the 70s, that people.
It was a heady time.
It was a heady time, and people said perhaps Burlington needed it.
Yeah. But you were mentioning that it's on Main Street in Burlington, which has been completely torn up by a big construction project for a while now. You can walk on the sidewalk, but it's hard to get to.
Yeah.
There's no parking. It's a different scene.
Yeah, the city kicked off their Great Streets initiative, Great Streets BTV, I believe it's called, initiative in 2018. And it's, it really hit downtown hard, particularly businesses like Nectar's. And, again, there's national stuff happening and local stuff happening. Nationally, what we've seen is that people do not buy tickets in advance like they used to. It's much more common for an average concert, whether they're going to a club or to Taylor Swift, though in Swift's case, you probably have to get them
Okay,
as early
yeah.
as you can. But people are much more likely to buy tickets very close to the date of the show, is what's been happening. For a club like Nectar's, that's difficult because you don't know what your sales are going to be. So you rely on walk-up traffic. You rely very much on, in this case, UVM students perhaps just walking down Main Street from their dorms, seeing a spinning neon sign and going, "Oh, what's the music at Nectar's today?" Well, it's surrounded in construction cones, and you actually can't get to the road, and so these all certainly played a part. So that was kind of when if you're someone who looks at the scene, you go, okay, that isn't going to be solved by booking different bands. That's not going to be solved by making cheaper ticket prices.
Right.
You need bodies in there. So that was probably my first, this is a problem. And then once I talked to the people at the club and I talked to people around the club, and I realized that they were, suffering from basically every point of attack you could as a live place. Attendance is down. We are also in this weird, I don't know if it's weird, but we're in this world now where the younger generation does not purchase alcohol like older generations have, particularly at
Right.
bars and shows. They don't want to get that drunk at shows. Maybe they want to remember them. Maybe they don't want to have a hangover the next day. I'm not giving them any grief about this at all. But they tend to drink less, and this is really, I think, part of, I would say, one of the main things that killed Nectar's, unfortunately, is that this is what the entire club system is based on. You have to sell alcohol to remain in business. If you don't sell alcohol, you will go out of business, even if you sell shows out. Nectar's was selling shows out up until the last week it closed.
So your advice for other music venues is to convince the youth to drink more.
Good luck.
That's our message here on Vermont
So
Edition.
yes. The 7 days official. No, I think what they.
But I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where the margin of profit is.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
entirely. It's set up completely for that. So as soon as that falls out, that's a problem.
Yeah. Let's take some calls here. We have Bob calling in from Barrie. Bob, go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to share a few experiences from living in Burlington in the early 80s.
Great.
Nectar's was a real bluegrass mecca. And I remember Frank Wakefield coming in, showing people his mandolin. Emmylou Harris performing at Memorial Auditorium, coming down and playing with Pine Island String Band. And with her was Vassar Clements. Sat down at the table and passed around this beautiful violin with a carved head. And it was just exceptional, the musicians that played there.
Wow, Bob.
Sorry, I'm losing my voice.
No, thank you for sharing those memories. We often think of Nectar's as more of a rock and punk and jam band venue. Chris, did you hear lots of stories after you wrote about Nectar's closure about its bluegrass roots as well?
I did actually. One of the first letters I got was actually, fittingly enough, from people talking about Pine Island and that scene. And and I talked a little bit in my column as well, is that it's totally fair to remember Nectar's as this jam band sort of haven, because it was. But long before that, yes, it serviced a really, I would say, thriving bluegrass scene that was here, and still is. And yeah, I got a lot of people who would tell me, oh, I saw an incredible. I actually, that particular show the caller was just talking about, I heard several stories about that. About the night Emmylou Harris showed up to Nectar's after her memorial show.
Wow.
Which is a pretty cool thing, and would happen. Those things, would happen in multiple genres. I remember sitting in Nectar's, and Ween just walked in. They were playing at Memorial as well on Halloween, and they showed up, jumped on stage with the Led Zeppelin cover band, and sang Zeppelin songs because they
That's
just,
awesome.
So I think it was pretty common and very. Multiple genres. I think Nectar served a lot of communities.
Yeah, we got a lot of messages from folks when we posted about Nectar's closure on the Burlington Reddit. One person said that they played their first gig there when they were 17. They were scared blank list, word I don't think I can say on the radio. One person wrote about Dead Set Tuesdays back when Zach Nugent was the resident. Right before COVID, I was religiously going to Dead Set and had a great time dancing and taking in the music. One person said that they remember seeing the Stan Moore Trio there in 2006. I got tickets because I'd heard Robert Walters' 20th Congress and really liked them. Very few people were there at Nectar, so I got up really close. It was incredible, especially because I was standing only about 6 inches from the keys. Then, poof, they were done. I got their CD, they all signed it for me, hung out, and talked to me like I was their friend. Then they played another set that was even better than the first. And then one more before we have to take a break, Chris, because I think you have a personal memory of this one. One person wrote about going to see Sound of Urchin shows playing on the old stage and the new one. And then this person said they peed in the sump pump in the basement. I'm not saying that was you, but
It
you
wasn't
said
me.
that you opened.
I did. My band opened that show. I was in a band called Dino Bravo, and we opened that show for Sound of Urchin. And all I can say is I remember that crowd, and I am not surprised that somebody peed in the sub pump.
A special place. We are remembering Nectar's today, a music venue, bar, and restaurant that closed in Burlington this year. If you have special memories of it, call in at 800-639-2211. And when we come back from this short break, we're going to be joined by the owner of another local venue in Burlington that is much beloved to hear more about this region's music scene and what's coming next. This is Vermont Edition. Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. This hour, we are sharing stories from a popular music venue in Burlington that closed this year, Nectar's. The venue is best known for its connection with the jam band Phish, who played there often in the 80s as they were on the ascent. Here with me today is Chris Farnsworth, the music editor of 7 Days, who's been covering the news of Nectar's and other music venues in the area. And I want to add one more voice to our conversation, Chris. Lee Anderson is the owner of the Radio Bean in Burlington. The venue hosts a wide variety of events, from weekly honky-tonk night to traveling indie artists to stand-up comedy. Lee, welcome to Vermont Edition.
Hi.
What were your first feelings when you found out that Nectar's was closing?
Oh, I was pretty sad about that. Nectar's obviously a huge cornerstone of the live music scene, and kind of announces to people as they come into town down Main Street that this town has music. You're driving in to find a spot to park. You can hear music coming out the windows, and it's the big music venue on Main Street, and had the 50-year legacy, so lots of people knew it, and just to have something like that closing just felt like such a big deal for Burlington and such a big deal for the music scene. And 7 nights a week having that stage gone is a really, really big deal.
Yeah. And Lee, I've always wondered, with venues such as yours, does it feel in any way like a closure is like in this tough economy that we're in for venues like yours? Does a closure mean that a competitor has closed? Like you might get a little more business from that, or is it really more of like a network, an ecosystem?
It's definitely an ecosystem. Nectar's closing. We got a few shows from them. They had booked over the summer and stuff and whatnot, but a town that's got a scene needs to have lots of venues, and that you need to have stages that's what keeps bands going. When they have multiple places to play, we can only obviously book, band like once a month at the most or something, and maybe every few months, and they need other places to play. And you also need to have places that people can graduate from, to. So it's like the Radio Bean has a, small capacity, but Nectar's had almost 3 times their capacity, and especially with Metronome and everything upstairs. So every time a music venue opens, I'm excited. There's another one, and every time I hear one closing, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's critical to have a scene, to keep things alive, and it also keeps people coming to town because they can bop around if they want to see live music. They can go to multiple places and not just have a couple options.
Yeah. Chris, as the music editor for 7 Days, you sort of have a bird's eye view of the music scene in this region. I wonder if you could speak to Lee's point a bit about the importance of having all those different sized venues for fans and musicians alike.
It's so important. It really ecosystem is the perfect word. And when one thing is removed, it can really affect everything. And we've kind of been dealing with a few of those things. I mean, we've been without Arts Riot for a little while. That was a very important, size stage for indie bands that could come through. Also local acts. But it's really it's such an important thing to start with, where you have a place, particularly like the Bean, where that it's going to allow young creative artists to show you what they have, and you can see them there. It's an affordable show. It's so important. And then, as Lee was saying, you graduate as a band. At some point, you start pulling in too many people. You become a headache for the club, and you're like, all right, well, I got, So you would then maybe you'd move to the Monkey House. Maybe you'd move straight to Nectar's then. Then, you build up your audience at Nectar's, you can start talking to higher ground. It's so important to kind of go through these things. And when one thing is removed from it, it affects the entire scene. It really, a great example, we have what I would consider a really great indie rock scene happening right now, with some bands that are getting ready, Rolling Stones covering, Paste is covering, people in England are going to see them. Thus Love out of Brattleboro, a great band, Robber, The Dead Shakers, Lily Seabird. These are all, Greg Freeman band especially. All of these these acts are enjoying really good success and notoriety abroad. They struggle to find where they're going to play here. All of them have played, they play great on the Radio Bean stages, but eventually you have to have more fans. You have to do it. But we have lost those stages. We've lost the places, they might do it at Arts Riot. They might do it at Nectar's. Well, they're gone. Yeah. So it's very important, and it's very damaging when we lose something like Nectar's.
Yeah. Lee, how's Radio Bean doing? I know last May you had a fire there. There's a lot of water damage. How's the business and the stage doing now?
It's a struggle. I'm not going to lie about that. It's definitely like day to day, week to week. Try to scramble to make the ends meet constantly, and it's interesting too, because it's like, one thing I thought about when I heard this, you're doing this show, is like, I think a lot of the perception is that when, like on Honky Tonk Night, or even on any Friday and Saturday night, there can be a line down the street to get into the Radio Bean, that, because we're at capacity. But that also doesn't translate to profitability. It's just with the people drinking less, and just the nature of how things have changed since, after the pandemic, it just doesn't translate to profitability. And I think that that's something that can be, misperceived. And it's not like we're slow either. I mean, we have, 1,000+ people come through the door every week, and it's, a lot of the shows are packed. And, but it is very, very difficult to stay in business. And with the humongous rise in insurance costs, that being one of the biggest factors, that it's just exponentially increasing every year, to the point that it's kind of feels like you're working for the insurance company and not for yourself, because all the money is just going to them.
Yeah.
So it is definitely really tricky to stay in business right now. I'm not going to lie about that.
And Lee, I wonder if you've also seen any generational shifts at Radio Bean over the last couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. And right after the pandemic, and we were closed for a while during that, obviously, and when we reopened, a lot of the people who turned 21 during the pandemic really wanted to come out and come to music venues and go to bars and do all these things. And so the scene really shifted a lot, where pre-pandemic, our median age was more like 35, 37 years old, because we had a lot of people in their 40s and 50s and 60s also coming out. And then right after the pandemic, it was just such a burst of the younger generation coming out in full force and packing the place. And then as the little bit older crowd started trying to come back around, once they got comfortable coming into big spaces like that, they were like, wow, I outgrew this place, or I've aged out of the demographic of Radio Bean or other places. And so the median age, the average age of most concert goers now is so much lower than it used to be, which is definitely different. And we've tried to bring, do shows and have earlier shows and things like that, but we haven't had much luck bringing back out those people who used to come out regularly for music. So that's definitely a big generational shift.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Lee, before we let you go, I am wondering if there are any upcoming events or concerts that you want to shout out while we have you.
Well, there's one show that I really love. This band, the Bubs. They're really good friends of mine, and they have a show coming up. It is sorry. I had it wrote down and I didn't look at it.
That's all right. It sounds like it's coming up, so people can find it if they need to.
It's coming up. The Bubs are going to be playing. They really bring it. And yeah, but generally it's we try to book things that people like, and we try to keep a wide variety of stuff happening that can for everybody's tastes and stuff. So I would just say get out and support live music, whether it's here or anywhere in Vermont. It's really important.
Lee Anderson owns the Radio Bean in Burlington. Lee, thanks so much for calling in.
Thank you.
And if you want to learn more about that band, the Bubs that he mentioned, might I suggest that you check out a interview that we did with its lead singer, Ethan Tapper, from back in September of last year. He's also a forester and an author, and it was a really fun conversation. You get a little taste of their music as well. We have Chris Farnsworth with us from 7 Days, as well as a number of callers. Let's go to some of them. Catherine is in Bristol. Catherine, go ahead.
Oh, hi, thanks. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
So I probably discovered Nectar's when I was in college, probably 47 years ago. It's definitely Nectar's, the Chicken Bone, and Hunt's were the three places where we went. Cheap beer, great music, just really great space for hearing. Oh, and probably the other place. And, earlier someone was talking about just how difficult it is when these places close. And so there's no more Chicken Bone, there's no more Hunts, and now there's no more Nectars. And, so I'm going to really miss Nectars. I worked at Hunt's in '82, and between Nectars and Hunt's, you could hear the End Zones, the X-Rays, just some of the greatest local music, Pine Island, and really miss those days.
Yeah.
So thanks for taking my call, and
yeah, thanks for going down memory lane with us, Catherine. Chris, do you remember some of those venues that she was bringing up there?
They're all before my time, but you hear them talked about a lot. The Chicken Bone is definitely remembered with
Such
a lot
a good
of love.
name.
What a great name for a
Man.
club. And Hunt's was a big deal too. Hunt's, I believe, someone might fact check me on this, but I believe Hunt's is now the Vermont Comedy Club. But there was a long time where that was a huge part. Those were some glory days of the Burlington venues.
Let me share some other memories about Nectars that we got in response to our post on the Burlington Reddit. A bunch of people wrote in about Metal Mondays, tradition they had for years.
Wonderful night.
One person said that they loved dancing all night to the Dave Grippo Funk Band and having just the best time. Somebody else wrote about a Led Zeppelin and AC/DC cover band that would play there in the early 2000s. They all wore wigs and dressed up and were crazy.
Led Loco.
Yeah?
That's Led
You
Loco.
know
That's the band that Ween jumped up and played with.
Oh, amazing. Reggae nights were mentioned. And one person wrote us about Sergey, the sound engineer.
Sergey.
The crown jewel of Nectars, this person called them. Having your band play and having Sergey do sound meant that he was going to let you know what all of your defects were as a band. He was going to yell at you for not putting your mouth all the way up to the mic and tell you that it was going to be loud.
Yep, eat the mic. I lost track of how many times I heard Sergey tell me or somebody else to eat the mic. Yeah, Sergey was a huge part of Nectars, and we lost him a couple months ago, and it was very, very sad.
Oh.
So great character in the Burlington music scene for many, many decades, and from the most top professional musicians we've produced to like the 19-year-old punk DIY kid. all of them got yelled at by Sergey. It
A
didn't
rite of
matter who you
passage.
were. Sergey would yell at you, and he was right, so it's okay.
Oh, let's go back to the phones here. We have Terry calling in from Burlington. Terry, go ahead.
Hi, I'm actually from Georgia, Vermont.
Thanks.
And I wanted to say that because I think my husband's listening. But anyway, I remember many, many years ago when Grace Potter first came on the scene. We happened into Nectar's and she was playing, and I got to sit right next to where she was playing, and her dad was doing a video of it. So we met him, and it was just a really lovely time.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Terry, for calling in. Yes, one of Vermont's own, Grace Potter, playing there. Chris, did you ever see her perform at Nectar's?
I did, yeah. She actually, I mean, I'm sure she played there before this, but my first memories were she had a Tuesday night residency for about a month or so there. It was a free show, you know, so it was, but, you know, nobody really knew who Grace Potter was, so you were just kind of like, you know, Tuesday residencies, you're just taking a shot and seeing what you get. But I remember everybody saying, this girl can really sing.
Yeah.
And in my memory, it was about 3 months later she was huge. I am sure that's not how quickly it went, but I seem to remember going into Nectar, seeing Grace Potter, and the next thing I know, she's on tour with like Kenny Chesney or something. But that is kind of how it would work at Nectar's, you know, like you'd have a quick minute to catch him before something happened. So it was great.
Speaking of having a quick minute to catch a band, one person wrote, back around the turn of the century, the 21st century, my buddy was there hanging with his girlfriend, and Phish came in randomly to do a show. He had no idea who they were. He had to go past the stage to go to the bathroom, and they stopped him and asked him what his favorite song was. And he was like, oh, I love all of them. And Trey Anastasio promptly responded, you have no idea who we are, do you? I love that.
It probably made Phish's day, actually.
Yeah,
They were probably very happy about that.
I know. They have a good sense of humor about that stuff. One person also wrote, we'd be mistaken to talk about Nectar's without mentioning Metronome and Fatty B Saturday 80s nights. Throughout my college years, it was one of the best places to dance in the town. You could also get in for free if you showed up early. For a broke college kid, this place was amazing.
My hot take on this whole thing, I've been telling everybody, is I'm actually much more heartbroken about losing Club Metronome. I'm very sad about Nectar's, and I have wonderful memories there. But as someone who came up in the rock and roll scene, Metronome was really the home, particularly in the 90s and early 2000s. I just, you know, it was, I think, one of the best sounding rooms in Burlington. It just, that second floor with the windows looking out, it was a great room. It was a great live music room. There used to be a karate studio on the third floor. So if you were sound checking, you would just hear kids running and doing karate for hours. And that memory I'll cherish.
It's a good prep for like being in front of a rowdy crowd.
100%.
Well, we know there are many other wonderful venues around our region, and a listener named Rob wrote in about one of them. Rob is sending a huge shout out to Hugo's in Montpelier, a very underappreciated and always welcoming venue. Zach Nugent played there last night, and it was positively thrilling from beginning to end. It always is. More people need to check out Hugo's. If there's a venue that you love that you want to shout out as we remember Nectar's and think about the future of the music scene in Burlington and our surrounding region, call in at 800-639-2211 or email vermontedition@vermontpublic.org. We're going to keep this conversation going after a short break. And Chris, we haven't even talked about the gravy fries yet.
No.
We're going to talk gravy fries. All right, this is Vermont Edition. Stay with us. Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. If you're just joining us today, we are marking the storied, nearly 50-year history of the Burlington music venue Nectar's. Its owners announced this summer that it was closing for good, leading to an outpouring of people sharing their memories of the place. We're joined by 7 Days music editor Chris Farnsworth. And Chris, before the break, I was remembering that I have neglected to read some of the many odes to the Nectar's gravy fries that we received on Reddit. You have had these gravy fries, yes?
I probably spent a portion of my student loans on gravy fries. As far as I like, that's what those and the all you can eat wings and pizza in Manhattan got me through college. So,
and you could order the fries from a window outside.
Yep,
That's what a lot of people
a walk-up window, which really, especially if you knew you were out late and maybe you wouldn't get past the door person in the state you were in, you could always go to the window and order your fries there. But it just became such a thing. You'd be 1 a.m. and you could smell the grease and the gravy and the fryer from a couple blocks away, and it was like a siren call. It was like, like one of those old Looney Tunes things where your nose would follow a scent, and next thing you know, you're at the window eating French fries at 2 a.m.
We have so many people writing with like incredibly specific taste memories of the gravy fries. One person wrote about them, a memory back in 1996, eating the gravy fries. They remember. Somebody else wrote this. I only went there once. It was before a UVM hockey game, and they had a fried chicken special with collard greens that were so good. It was some of the best fried chicken I've ever had. I will be wanting the fried chicken and greens till the day I die. One other person wrote that they would get off their shift at Sweetwater's, another RIP, and meet my friends at Nectar's. We'd get an order of wings with fries and eat the whole thing. I was always starving after work. Then I'd dance, drink, and pop outside for smokes. No kids then, not married, no pets even, just myself to answer to.
Just living.
Ugh, what a vision.
What a vision. Absolutely.
No. Let's get some more calls in here. We have Gretchen calling in from Burlington. Gretchen, go ahead.
Hi, yeah. I appreciate this conversation. I was just at Higher Ground last night for the Fruit Batch show and having a lot of conversations about nectars with my partner. And just like kind of first wanting to appreciate that it's like such a wonderful spot in Burlington, first for its history and like its cultural relevance. But yeah, just like for keeping kind of like the liveliness of our city going. I think the most recent show I had seen there before it closed is the Moondogs, which is like a local Burlington band. But I also do have a question. It's just like beyond getting out to shows, how can community members in Burlington and beyond just like continue to support the music ecosystem that we have here?
Chris, what do you think? Great question.
It's a very good question. I mean, obviously, the first and foremost, just go to shows, buy tickets. Buy tickets as early as you can. If you know you're going to go to a show, say if you look at, if you see something at Foam Brewers is fabulous. They book original music almost every night of the week now. But any of these places, if there's a chance where you can buy a ticket early, that's going to do a world of good for everybody, the band, the venue. So that's a big part about it. It's tricky because it's kind of one of these things. It reminds me of like the recycling thing where you're like, someone's like, hey, make sure you throw the bottle out. And you're like, what about this company doing? Because the problem with the live music scene right now is that the model is broken. So people are going to the shows. We have a lot of people going to shows. We need people to keep going to shows, but we have to find a way to change the model of how these venues make money from the shows in order for them to survive. So, if I was telling someone like, how are you going to try and support the venue? The answer would be, like, I guess drink a lot, but we don't really want that. No. We don't want to tell people to drink a lot. And it's probably maybe a healthy thing that, people are doing less. So it really becomes about, I would say, trying to, if it's a place where there's food, eat there. Word of mouth is a big thing. Tell people that you're going to shows there. Share it. Social media is still a big deal. And then just, this is the toughest part because it's something that's very easy for young people to do, but tougher as we get older, is take a chance on stuff you don't know. We all used to do that much more commonly when we were in our 20s and teenagers. You see someone, you look at the bill and you go, I don't know that band. I don't know that artist. Well, no one knew Grace until they showed up to Nectar's and saw her that night. So a big thing is really just support your local stuff, go to it, but also like don't just go to see the Noah Kahn show. Also go to see Robber when they show up, and you'll be very happy. Go to see the Moondogs. Shows like this. That's a great way to do it. But I want to be clear. I want everyone to go to shows. That's not going to do it alone. We have the entire system, the ecosystem, as we were saying, around live music has to change.
Yeah. Well, a listener named James wrote us to ask if the band Phish might ever buy this place, since it kind of gave them their start in the music scene. Do you think that could ever happen, Chris?
Well, I would never speak for what people would do with their millions, since I have none. I would say if someone asked me to put, if I was a betting man, I would say no. There's been one of the thing I've been asked about a lot since Nectar's closed was what's going to happen, who might buy it, who could save it. That's the thing. Who can save Nectar's has become a real common question. It would be amazing if that happened. I would be surprised. It's running a live institution, running a live music venue is very difficult, as Lee was speaking about earlier. And it requires really, you have to make it your life. And I am sure if you're a touring musician in a very successful band, you've got a lot on your mind that probably doesn't involve running a club in Burlington, but they have an organization. Who knows? I would say I wouldn't expect Phish to do that. They're doing a lot of great things on their own to help the local scene, the Water Wheel Foundation, and many other things. I think the best hope, and I have no intel on this, I'm just saying the best hope is that another local business person who wants to run a venue can work with the situation there. But from what I understand, it's a very difficult situation. So not looking likely that Phish will suddenly open Nectar's.
Okay. Let's go next to Josh, who's in Corvallis, Oregon. Josh, go ahead.
Hey, thanks so much. Chris, what an interesting take you have, and thank you for putting the thought into the live music scene. I'm calling because I started working at Nectar's when I was 17, when they opened another location on Martha's Vineyard. And then I moved up to Burlington, and, I have to thank my friend Alex Budney for giving me the chance, but it started a career in the music industry, and the fundamentals that Nectar put down of supporting local live music have kind of trickled out throughout the country, and in some cases throughout the world. I work for international touring musicians now, and I've had interactions with people in Europe who know of Nectar's and kind of shouted out my hot fries shirt with the Nectar's logo on the back. So thank you for taking all this time to talk about the institution and mentioning Sergey and gravy fries. It means a lot to hear the support about it, and then obviously everyone's sadness, because I feel the same way.
Josh, thank you so much for that call and for reminding us that the legacy of this venue is really living on, and lots of people who not only went to see music there or played there, but worked there as well. Thank you. You mentioned a Nectar's t-shirt, and that reminds me that we got a message from a listener named Maureen, who wrote in to say that on the popular Hulu series The Bear, the actor who plays Pete, Natalie's husband, was wearing a Nectar's t-shirt in season 4, episode 2. It was a brief scene, so you got to watch for it. So yeah, Chris, I wonder if you could kind of ruminate on that with me and with our listener Josh and other listeners about the way, and our listener Maureen, the way in which Nectar's, though it has closed, it still has its tentacles out there through the work of lots of people who are connected to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it certainly for a long time it's going to be remembered. But I mean, it launched 2 major artists. I mean, when Phish and Grace Potter both come out, that's going to be like clubs get the same way that people think of CBGBs when they think of the Ramones. You're going to think of the clubs very much associated with that sort of thing. But I think also, kind of as Josh was saying, Nectar's for a very long time had kind of like this vibe, for lack of a better term, about it, where it was very much like, this is of us, this is from us, this is Burlington. When you go there, whatever you're seeing, you're getting the shade of the city and our culture and our personality. And I think that carried on in the world very much. I mean, if you stop a Phish fan and ask them about Nectar's, they're going to talk about, like, it's actually can get
part of the lore.
It's part of the lore, and it can be strange sometimes, particularly as if you're a Burlingtonian, to kind of be like, well, I mean, yeah, it's a nice little, I guess my fries down there, and then you think about it and you're like, well, no, like this is an ambassador for the city and has been for 50 years, where people in Europe, people all around the world, maybe they know Bernie, but like there's not a lot people are going to talk about, but there's Phish and there's Nectar's. So I think that's a huge part of it. But also like its legacy of being a place where you could see these new music genres happen, these scenes pop up, and a place that would take chances on bands that you could see for cheap, which is the secret to breaking music. Shocker.
Chris is calling in from Colchester. Chris, what are your thoughts?
Hey, good afternoon. I grew up in Richmond on a dairy farm with my brothers, and we spent a lot of time downtown when we were young. And I just wanted to mention that Nectar originally owned, back in the 60s, what was probably looked upon as Burlington's first fast food restaurant called The Lure. Lure, right next to the old Alpine shop on Williston Road. And that was where you could buy 25-cent hamburgers. And I think it's important also to let you know that when David owned the Chicken Bone downtown on King Street, once he closed that, he now owns Waterworks in Winooski, and is just as wonderful today as he did back then, and does an amazing job with Waterworks. And
Wow, it's that network that we were talking about earlier. Thank you, Chris, for bringing that up. And I'm glad you brought up Nectar, the man, the namesake. One person wrote to us on Reddit to say that Nectar was such a nice man and very active with the Greek Orthodox Church in town. We used to go for fries and gravy every weekend, and he'd serve us with a smile and sometimes sit with us. We have memories of seeing so many good bands there in the 80s and 90s. Dan is calling in from Burlington. Dan, go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to sort of support the how to discover and support the local music scene in Burlington. I'm a DJ on WRUV, and we often highlight a lot of local bands as well as touring bands, and I want to sort of plug that people-based curation thought. VPR, Vermont Public, now has Saturdays with Tad Cautious, who is a Vermont DJ, Sundays with DJ Lou, a Vermont DJ. And then we have organizations like Waking Windows, who bring acts that you might, on the theme of taking chances on bands, really end up doing that, taking a chance and discovering a band you really love. So just wanted to sort of pull people away from the algorithms and more towards people-based curation, which I think we still do have a lot of between Vermont Public, WRUV, and some other, the Radiator and WBTV and other smaller local stations.
Yeah. Dan, thank you so much for that shout out for Vermont Public's new DJs and for the work that you all are doing over at RUV. Chris, there is such a really excellent ecosystem, if you look for it in this region, of folks who are trying to curate and spotlight new music.
Yeah, and it's becoming increasingly rare and it's good that we have it, because we're in the ecosystem is kind of reacting to the post social media world of promotion, where 8-9 years ago everybody kind of switched from flyering and word of mouth to just constantly pumping out social media stuff. But that's, as social media has kind of changed its nature, so is the way we look for shows has changed. So now it really is it's so much about community activity. It's about paying attention to the outlets like RUV, like Vermont Public, if I may say so, like 7 Days.
For sure.
All of these places that are going to talk about these things, it's very important, and we in Burlington have a great system for that right now. We actually have these entities that cover that, and that's not the norm around everywhere anymore. So it's something to be treasured and to be paid attention to. And
I should also let our listeners know that you are wearing a T-shirt for another great venue in our region. I think is this the Stone Church down in Brattleboro?
This is the Stone Church down in Brattleboro. It's what a club. It's another thing I tell everybody here, that we have incredible clubs in Burlington to go check out. There's a ton of them. Whether we're talking about Foam, the Venetian, the 126, there's great stuff here. But get on the road. Get on 89. There's some incredible venues in this state, and I don't think I've been to a better one than the Stone Church.
Yeah. Well, let me share just a couple more messages about Nectars before we got to wrap up, Chris. One person wrote in about, we got to go back to the food, the dark turkey meat open-faced sandwich with fries that was covered in gravy. It paired great with an Otter Creek Hells, they said. And they once also saw a stomp and shout harmonica player on stage that blew me away. Never got his name, but it was amazing to watch. And then I saved my favorite for last. This person begins this post by saying, "This is so cringe, but for my 16th birthday, way back in the day, I asked my parents to rent a limo for my friends and I, and we got dropped off out front of Nectar's. We went in and got the big round back booth and stuffed our faces with gravy fries. That was my 16th birthday." It sounds like a pretty great birthday to me.
Great 16th birthday. That's pretty great.
Chris Farnsworth with 7 Days. Thank you so much for helping us to remember this music venue, Nectar's in Burlington.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And I encourage everyone to go check out Chris's latest cover story for 7 Days about not Phish, but another band you might have heard of, the Grateful Dead, and the ways in which their fan base is growing and growing and growing. It's a really fun read. All right, that is all the time that we have for Vermont Edition today. We were joined by 7 Days editor Chris Farnsworth. You might have heard that my colleague Mitch Wortley recently won a heated race for the 7 Daisies Award for Best Radio Personality, despite my best attempts to influence the election and sway that vote. I think the best man won. I am heading out of town next week. Mitch will be filling in for me. He and the team have some great shows planned and a couple rebroadcasts of oldies but goodies, too. Today's show was directed by Aaliyah Papes and produced by Andrea Lorian. Our call screener was Rick Barrett. Our music's by Myra Flynn. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch up again soon.
These days, there's so much news, it can be hard to keep up with what it all means for you, your family, and your community. The Consider This podcast from NPR features our award-winning journalism. 6 days a week, we bring you a deep dive on a news story and provide the context and analysis that helps you make sense of the news. We get behind the headlines. We get to the truth. Listen to the Consider This podcast from NPR.